Well, good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, I want to begin this briefing speaking about the events of last night. Last night, a group by the name of Richmond Strike led a rash of property damage and vandalism to public and private buildings in our city. Windows were broken, including 22 at the John Marshall Courthouse. This forced the closure of that building today. And there was also damage in other downtown buildings. Let me be clear. The violence and vandalism that occurred last night is unacceptable. Unacceptable. It's wrong, and it undermines any sort of mission behind the cause of Black Lives Matter. What I see Black Lives Matter as saying that we should love black lives as much as folks love white lives. Last night was not about a cause. That was about violence. That was about paralysis. People want to paralyze the city of Richmond. Unacceptable. So I want to be very clear for all those who might be watching, who continue to do this. If you are involved in any riotous behavior, violence during any protest, we will charge you with all applicable offenses. All applicable offenses. I don't know how clear we can be about that. But when you damage buildings, when you damage properties like the 22 windows in the John Marshall Courthouse, which could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars from city coffers, these dollars that could be going to help lives right here in the city of Richmond are now going to fixing windows. Fixing windows. So it is in conflict of what these people say that they are standing for. And I will say this, there are folks who are hijacking what this initially began about a racial reckoning in the city and in this country. A clear hijacking of that cause. So, I want you to know that it will not be tolerated. It will not be tolerated. And you will be charged with all applicable offenses. This violence is misguided, ladies and gentlemen. Misguided. It's a misguided attempt to create chaos, provoke confrontation, and create an atmosphere of disorder and paralysis that sows doubts in our city. It's happening not only here in Richmond, but it's happening in other places as well. This is not who we are as a people and as a community. This is a community of love. And no, we have not gotten it all right. We're not perfect. But it gives no reason for anyone to commit violence on this community, the community that I love, the community I know that everybody in this city loves. If you don't love this community in that way, then maybe this may not be the place for you. If you're not willing to love this city and work towards the changes in our systems, work toward the righting those wrongs and towards rectifying the injustices, then move out of the way. Then move out of the way. For the course of the last 60 days, we've had a number of conversations with people who have taken to the streets, who've demonstrated in a peaceful manner. In a peaceful manner. But there is a small percentage out there who choose to go another way. And today I'm speaking directly to them. If you choose to go another way, you will go to jail. Let me repeat that. If you choose to go another way, the wrong way, you will go to jail. Bottom line. So if you want to get to work on the racial reckoning that we've seen in this country, then join us. Then join us. But if you want to break windows, damage property, vandalize, and undermine this moment of pain, you're going to be alone in doing that. So, the Richmond Police Department will investigate. They will make more arrests. And you will go to jail. Period. Hard stop. Now, it's been 5 months. 5 months, almost to the day since I declared a state of emergency in the city of Richmond in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. The city of Richmond is currently in phase 3 of the Fort Virginia plan of the governor. And obviously, if you have any questions about our status as a community when it comes to COVID-19, we ask that you visit rvastrong.org/reopening guidance. Again, rvastrong.org/reopening guidance. City government offices and facilities are also in phase 3 of operations. You can learn how to safely receive city services at richmondgov.com/COVID-19. There you can find an updated list of city operations at this current time. As of this morning, the City of Richmond Health District is reporting 3,248 confirmed positive cases in the city of Richmond. There have been 36 total positive cases in the city's workforce. And unfortunately, our community has lost 41 lives to COVID-19. I'd like to take a moment of silence in honor and memorialization of those that we've lost. Thank you. The health district is still offering community testing events on a weekly basis. Remember, these testing events are free. If you are ever in any doubt, I request that you get tested. That's what doing our part in this pandemic is all about. If you have any doubt about whether or not you've been exposed at all, you should go get tested. Thursday, August 13th, they'll be testing at Tuckahoe Middle School from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And remember, these events are available to the broad public. And regardless of insurance status, citizen status, mobility, or geographic location. If it makes you comfortable to get tested, it makes your family members comfortable, the folks you work with more comfortable, makes yourself more comfortable, bottom line, get tested, okay? And if you are unsure of your testing options, we still request that you visit rvastrong.org/testing or call the hotline, 804-205-3501. And with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Melissa Veray from the Richmond City Health District to come up and provide an update on the city's public health status. Dr. Veray.
Thank you, Mayor Stoney. We have 2 updates today that I want to share with everybody. The first is that the Virginia Department of Health has partnered with Google and with Apple to launch COVIDwise. This is the nation's first state-based mobile exposure notification app. COVIDwise is a free app that uses Bluetooth technology and allows users to anonymously be notified when they have, either both proximity and by time, potentially been exposed to another user with a VDH-verified positive COVID test. This is done without identifying either the identity or the location of either the infected person or the exposed individual. It notifies you via your phone that you may have been exposed and what to do next, but it doesn't tell you, it doesn't release any information about who exposed you or who you might have exposed. It's completely anonymized. The effectiveness of this app in decreasing transmission and allowing people to know that they've been exposed and pursue testing and get into quarantine depends on how many people use it. And as of Tuesday at midnight, just over 305,000 individuals had downloaded the app, and the more uptake we have, the more effectively this will work. That's my first update. And secondly, regarding where we are in Richmond right now with regards to COVID, nationally, we seem to have crested maybe the current surge. Even overall in Virginia, we may be holding stable or perhaps even decreasing. But in different parts of Virginia, we're seeing different areas of surge. In Richmond, we aren't seeing a surge, but I continue to be concerned around these slow but steady increases we've been seeing in our cases. Again, when I speak to our investigators, we're hearing about exposures related to restaurants, larger gatherings, workplaces that run the gamut from warehouses to other office buildings. And it continues to be critical that we adhere to social distancing, to wearing our face coverings, and making choices that allow us to reopen safely. One other comment I will make is that our current positivity in Richmond is 8.6%. This is higher, that's still under the 10% that we use as our marker, but it is higher than it has been. Now, what this happens to coincide with what I'm seeing in a decrease in the number of tests we've been seeing come through Richmond overall from all providers. And what this tells me is that, yes, on our end, we need to continue to make sure that we increase accessibility to testing, that we encourage people to get testing. But like Mayor Stoney said, people need to pursue testing if they've been exposed. People need to pursue testing if they have symptoms. And we need to make sure that, again, like he said, if you have questions about testing, go to RVA Strong, check out our testing sites, and pursue testing. That's all I have today.
Thank you, Dr. Varay. Thank you, Dr. Varay. All right, so I'm going to have now ask that Alicia Zatkoff, who's the director of the Office of Sustainability here with the City of Richmond, I'm going to ask her to come up and discuss a broad conversation we've been having about public health, the connection between public health and also environmental health here in the City of Richmond. She's going to give some brief comments on that intersection that we're seeing here in the capital city. And so, Ms. Zatkoff, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Stoney. I came for show and tell today. As Mayor Stoney said, I'd like to just spend a few minutes and talk about the connection between climate and health, specifically the extreme heat that we've been experiencing here in our community this summer and COVID. So climate change is causing Richmond to experience higher than average temperatures and more extreme heat waves, and I'm sure you've all experienced that this summer. Last month wasn't just the hottest July on record, it actually tied August of the year 1900 as the all-time hottest month in 140 years of local records. In addition to the heat and the high temperatures, Richmond itself is what's called an urban heat island, which means, like many other cities, Richmond has a lot of surfaces that have been modified, so paving, sidewalks, streets that retain or capture and hold heat and make us hotter than surrounding areas that are more rural, that have more green space. And so within the city limits itself, we have areas of our community that are up to 15 degrees hotter than other parts of the city. And so if you think about places in the city that you go to cool off, areas that have more trees, that are near the river, more green spaces are cooler than areas with less greenery and trees that have more pavement, more paved surfaces, and those are the much hotter areas. And so in the summertime, this urban heat island effect is even more extreme. And what happens is we can get periods of extremely high temperatures. In fact, in July, we had 20 days of above 90 degrees. And this extreme heat can create serious health impacts for the most vulnerable members of our community, people with pre-existing health conditions, older people, people that work outside. And so our community members that are on the front lines of this extreme heat, those who are impacted first and worst, are also many of the same people that are impacted by COVID-19. And that's what this poster shows, that connection between the areas of our community most vulnerable to extreme heat and COVID. So these two crises of COVID-19 and extreme heat have really brought to the forefront, not only in our community, but all around the country and the world, structures, these deep-seated structures that are rooted in systemic racism that serve our community and many other communities in inequitable ways, from healthcare and housing to education and government services. And these inequities have a disparate impact on Black and African American and Hispanic and Latino members of our community. So we know this here at the City of Richmond, and we're working very hard to address these inequities that exist in our community. We have several initiatives that we're working on to help address, in particular, extreme heat and reduce our urban heat island and protect our community in a way that's inclusive of those that are most vulnerable. And that is the second poster that talks about or shows some of the initiatives that we're working on. We're currently in the middle of our RVA Green 2050 planning process, which is an equity-centered climate action planning process, looking at how we address our community priorities in a way that reduces our climate impacts like extreme heat and also extreme precipitation and flooding. We just finished our Richmond 300 comprehensive planning process, and that identified many strategies to reduce our urban heat island, including increasing tree canopy, but in a way that's equitable. So looking at prioritizing those areas of the community that have been underserved in the past with greenery and trees. We're also working on RVA H2O, which is the Clean Water Plan for the city, and a Green Infrastructure Master Plan, which is looking at innovative ways of bringing in stormwater planning, but to do that to not only reduce runoff, but also reduce the urban heat island. And then we've been working with partners all around the community, including Capital Trees, to do the low line and the low line green, which hopefully many of you have seen, which is to take the areas around the Canal Walk downtown and along the riverfront and build not only green infrastructure, but also putting in that infrastructure to reduce the urban heat island. We have our Parks Department that has an open streets initiative looking at closing down streets to cars and making them available to pedestrians and bicyclists to increase the areas for cooling during this extreme heat, and also during COVID-19, making more open space available for people to social distance while they recreate. And then finally, we have our Public Works Department that has a number of initiatives to increase tree planting and also support private organizations in the community that are doing tree planting. And we know one of the most important ways we can help address extreme heat is to help our community become more educated and aware of the risks of extreme heat. We have cooling stations that are available when the temperature and the heat index rises above 95 degrees, making sure that our community knows where those cooling stations are located, how to access them, and to make sure that during COVID-19 that they do so in a safe and appropriate way. And also encouraging our community members to do things that they can do on their own to help us here at the city reduce our urban heat island. Things like planting trees or caring for existing trees that are in your neighborhood. Also installing a green roof, which is a roof with plants or vegetation on your home or business. Creating a green space that maybe you have a vacant lot in your neighborhood, working to turn that into actually a green space or planting trees on it. And then looking at installing permeable or porous surfaces. So if you're getting ready to put in a new driveway or some new pathways in your home or around your commercial space, looking at doing that in a way that allows the rain to soak through instead of just running off the surface. So those are some of the things that we're encouraging folks to think about that can help us in the city address extreme heat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Zakoff. And now I'm going to ask our superintendent, Jason Cameras, to come up here and talk a little bit about the Reopen with Love plan this year for the, I guess it's the 2020-2021 academic year. So, Mr. Cameras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few updates. As the mayor said, our reopening plan is called Reopen with Love. That is very intentional. Our motto at RPS is to teach with love, lead with love, and serve with love. And so we will reopen with love. And by that we mean we are focused not just on the academic growth of our students, which of course is our first priority, but also on the social and emotional growth and care for our students, which is so critical after the pandemic, always, but certainly at this time. And so we are putting in place a number of measures to support our young people on that front. 3 high-level updates I did want to just note, make sure everybody heard. First and foremost, we will be delivering meals, a bag of breakfast and lunch every morning through our bus transportation system. So our buses will be running their normal routes, but instead of picking up kids, they'll be dropping off food. And so every morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., our buses will make over 1,000 stops across the city to give students a breakfast and a lunch. And we will do that every day, Monday through Friday, for as long as we are in a virtual environment. Because of that, our start time will be 9:15. We need about 2 hours from 7 to 9 a.m. to do the meal distribution. I do want to note that some of the counties have earlier start times. They are able to do that because they do not have as much of a need when it comes to meal distribution as we do. And so you will see a later start time and you'll see a later end time. And I do want the public to understand why that is the case. Second, I want to clarify this is real school. We will be remote, but this is real school. And by that I mean kids will be expected to log in at 9:15 to complete all of their assignments. They will be graded. Kids will receive report cards and there will be transcripts. And we will, of course, do everything humanly possible to support our young people through this process, support their families, and of course support our teachers as well. But I do want to be clear that attendance is expected, work should be completed, and we have high expectations for our young people as always, and that will not change during our virtual semester. Finally, on our website, which is rvaschools.net, if you go to the homepage, you'll see an icon. It's a heart, and it says Reopen with Love. Just click on that, and you can get our full reopening plan with all of the details. One item there that I do want to draw people's attention to is a family checklist, which has a set of items that every family should look over and make sure that they address before September 8th. So please go to the website, rvaschools.net, click on the heart and look at the family checklist to make sure that your family is set for school come September 8th. Thank you all very much.
And thank you, Mr. Cameron. And I just want to say, I said it yesterday at the Education Compact meeting between the school board, the city council, and the office of the mayor, and just want to say, such a great job I think that you and your team have been doing throughout the pandemic, throughout the summer, and the run-up to reopening as well, not knowing what the future may hold, whether or not we could be in person or things are going to be virtual, but there was a lot of planning done that goes unnoticed. And I want to say thank you for doing such a great job and tackling those challenges as they've come. And my hat's off to you and your team, teachers, faculty, staff, everyone, families involved. Good work.
Thank you.
With that, we'll begin with taking some questions.
Henry? Thank you for your time. Would you elaborate a little bit more on this Richmond strike group? And then also, for the average person who's just wondering, when is it going to stop? What do you say to them?
Yeah, I have no clue who Richmond Strike is. Okay, I'm going to tell you, be 100% honest with you about that. What I do know is that these were individuals that were bent on destruction, vandalism, and damage last night. They were not about BLM or anything of the sort. The results of their work are very, very apparent. It's right before our eyes. That's what they were focused on. I don't know whether they led it or spearheaded it, but at least that's what the social media traffic says. And so these aren't folks out here trying to promote or rectify the injustices, racial injustices we have in the city or in this country. That's just the bottom line. For those folks who are worried about this continuing to happen, remember we had 24 plus days until we had one incident, and we've had a streak of non-violence and peaceful protests since then as well, in between those moments right there. And I also want to say this is a small percentage of individuals, right? Small percentage. I refuse to paint the entire racial reckoning movement as violent protesters. This is a small group of individuals who were bent on violence last night. And we're going to do everything we can to not only investigate, but also to arrest those individuals. I think we arrested 4 last night, Deputy Chief Collier. There was a lot of video out there and footage that show others doing other things as well. And we're going to do everything we can to bring them to justice. I just want to say that small contingent, though, cost the city of Richmond hundreds of thousands of dollars last night. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it was felonious. Felonious. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure the individuals involved pay the price. Right? If you're going to do something like this in the city of Richmond, there will be a price to pay.
Laura?
As you mentioned, the courthouse was closed today. One of the men charged in the death of Marquia Dixon was scheduled to be in court today. What's your response to that, having the court be closed?
That's right. The question was about, the court being closed today, and also today was the hearing for the murder suspect involved in the death of Marquia Dixon, who died in a Richmond public park. Marquia's death motivated the city of Richmond to be the first city in the entire Commonwealth to put new gun legislation to work in this state, okay? Which means we've banned guns in public parks and also in municipal buildings here in the city of Richmond. I think all of us, at some point after Marquia passed away, our hearts all across the city hurt a little. I just feel like things were just a little bit less after we lose a young life in a park. A child just going to a park, just doing what children do, right? Enjoying their families, enjoying their friends, and she didn't come home that night. And it's a responsibility of our court system to carry out the justice process. But guess what? That process is on hold today because some people decided to be selfish and knock in windows at the John Marshall Courts building. So you say that you stand for Black Lives Matter. We lost a black little girl in the city, and we can't go about bringing justice to her because of your selfishness. That's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. And guess what? I'm not the only person that feels this way. There are a lot of people out there who feel a lot of this is selfish. You can talk to anyone on the West End, on the North Side, the East End, and South Side, and they all will agree that it's past time that we recognize there are racial injustices in our city, in our systems, in our state, and in our country. And guess what? There are a lot of people out there who want to do something about that. And I'm grateful for the work of people, not only in my team here at the city, folks on city council, community leaders already, who've already begun doing that work. But when actions like the ones that occurred last night happen, it takes us all a step back. Not just black and brown people, everybody, the entire city takes a step back. The entire city does.
Brendan.
Mayor, sir, thank you for this opportunity. So our cameras were rolling when the destruction was happening. We knew it was happening because you said social media alerted people to it. Where were the officers? When will police actually stop it before it happens?
Now, I'm going to have Deputy Chief Collier come up. But also, as I stated in the past, when it even comes down to gun violence, that the police department can't be on every single corner in the city of Richmond.
But we were there. Why couldn't the police be?
I don't know exactly where you were when you're talking about where you were there, but I got Deputy Chief Collier, who's with us. He can talk about the police. We're obviously not going to give out any tactical details about, but Deputy Chief Collier will answer the question.
First, I'll say, if you were there and you have footage, you ought to share that with us so we could bring these people to justice, okay? The police department is out there, and we have strategic plans in what we do, and we try to respond as quickly as we can to the destruction and the violence that's happening in the city. So we work at it tirelessly, night after night. In the beginning, they garnered a lot of support on social media and in the media. But now it's been going on for a while. And I don't think I could say it better than the mayor, that the ones out there now are hell-bent on damage. They want to destroy this city. They don't want this city to progress. We mentioned children being shot in our city. They're not marching in those neighborhoods. Why? Why aren't they out there? What are they doing in these neighborhoods? No food drives, no help with shelter out there. All they're doing is playing a game of destruction in our city. And we're going to keep working at it. We're going to get better at it, and we're just going to keep working at it.
Sabrina?
So this is for the mayor, and throughout, you just announced relief for businesses that have been impacted by protests and earlier in the pandemic for businesses impacted by COVID. Do you have plans to propose any, similar measures to Black and Latino Richmonders who currently make up more than 70% of cases and are more likely to work low-wage jobs and not work?
Yeah, so you know that the city has been the recipients of CARES Act dollars. We are grateful for the Congress for doing the first part of that in terms of creating that safety net for Richmonders, particularly those who are facing financial hardship. A lot of those are black and brown Richmonders, African Americans, Latino residents as well. We put $6 million behind eviction diversion and also rental assistance as well. We have also been a recipient of a new tranche of dollars from the Commonwealth. And we are now going to put another $8 million behind that, focus on eviction diversion, rental assistance, mortgage relief. That's $14 million available to Richmonders who are facing financial hardship. At the end of the day, we are in a pandemic. And the last thing we need is for people to be left out in the cold, or I guess you could say the heat, Alicia, right now in the middle of a pandemic. Housing security is of utmost priority. And also, I think it was last week or last month, I think I wrote a letter to the chief judge here locally to halt evictions, place a moratorium. I'm grateful that the Supreme Court has one in place until the middle of September. But I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to need more relief than what we've received already from the federal government. And so when I see a back and forth or a stalemate between the executive branch and President Trump and Congress, my request is to get to work, because the first is coming once again. It comes in September, it'll come in October, it'll come in November, and it'll come in December. And local governments like the city of Richmond can't do this by themselves.
How come eviction cases were on the docket today at the Delmarva Courthouse with
Gosh, I don't know exactly for the numbers today. I know there were, someone said, there were 1,800 I know that were prior to COVID-19 striking the city of Richmond. I think, I can't give you an exact number, Sabrina, so I can find that number for you, but I don't know the exact number.
how come that is a priority?
So here's the deal. The moratorium doesn't mean that unlawful detainers will not be filed, right? Which is an eviction lawsuit. It means that you can stay in your home. There will be a point where you're going to have to rectify that balance with your landlord. That's going to have to happen. But I don't believe that people should be displaced during a pandemic. And that's why I've continually have written letters to the governor to request that he halt evictions in the city of Richmond. That's why I've also made available $14 million so we can make the landlord whole so people can stay in their homes. We're doing everything we can to make sure that people aren't displaced in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a health crisis. And we will continue to do so.
Brett. Yeah, last night on social media, those that were rioting stated that the reason was evictions, which we were just talking about. I think we've kind of all gotten used to this cycle now, and it could be that the next thing they want to go out and protest or riot for is to release people who were put in jail. Or have the charges dropped. They have that listed on their demands that you've probably seen. So
I have not seen, because I'm not on social media. So I don't live in the social media world. I live in the city of Richmond in the real world. And a lot of people live in the real world right now, actually, right? People are facing evictions every day. All the hardship that people are going through, that is real, right? But I do believe it's still a distraction from actually finding the solutions when you are damaging property. Damaging property doesn't ensure that a person isn't evicted.
Well, these folks that are doing this live on social media, so it's important to monitor that. And
Here's the thing. I appreciate you saying it's important for me to monitor social media. Yeah, there will be people in the administration or in the police department who will do that, but I don't think people want their mayor spending time scrolling timelines.
But are these people who were just arrested going to be released in a day or two and go right back to what they were doing?
I mean, that is a question for Richmond City Justice Center, not a question for me. I mean, you only can keep people but for so long at the end of the day. A lot of times when they are arrested, they are also, I think the judge or someone says that they can't be in the vicinity of any sort of gatherings like the one that occurred last night or any protest. That has been the case in the past.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.